Session. Can't believe it's been a whole day already. Well, aloha everyone. You guys all deserve a round of applause for sticking around all day long. That's awesome. So, or either that we deserve applause for you being interested enough to stick around. But I want to introduce the next and last session. It's AWS Deep Racer for AI and ML learning. For those that don't know what that stands for, it's artificial intelligence and machine learning. So it's basically gamifying some pretty leading edge technology, right, that a lot of our businesses and government agencies are looking to get into. So today we have a couple of speakers that are going to share and tell some of the program in AWS as well as the use case that use this program. So first up is Nick Sciarrilli, and Nick is a senior solutions architect for AWS. He's been a technologist with many years in networking space and transitioning into data analytics, focused on all things data, big data, small data, data engineering, data. I think you get the point there. He likes data. Nick's gained a lot of his current technical experience from other global tech companies such as Nokia, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, and Bear Data Solutions. So welcome, Nick. And also joining him is Clyde Shiigi. Clyde serves as DataHouse's Chief Innovation Officer and has been with DataHouse for 44 years. That's right. I think you remember we mentioned that we've been around for almost 50 years. Well, Clyde's been around for the majority of those years, starting his career as an intern, and has been with us ever since, growing from positions starting out as programmer all the way up to the ranks of eventually leading the company as president and CEO. So yes, he's my predecessor and very humble mentor. So thank you, Clyde. And Clyde can honestly say that these days he now enjoys Christmas every day, leading all things innovative for DataHouse and his clients. So you like that? Yeah? And you're going to share some of the Christmas days that we got toys. You got toys. He's playing with toys. There you go. So help me welcome Nick and Clyde.
Aloha. Let me see here, fix this mic. See if that works. Can you guys hear me? Yep. Thank you for the intro, Eddie. Good afternoon, everyone. Very honored to be here and to get to talk to everyone. So I'm going to introduce you to Deep Racer. If you aren't already familiar with it, maybe a show of hands. Is anyone familiar with Deep Racer? Okay, good. So, and one of my slides was cut out here, but it's okay. So what is Deep Racer, right? It's basically an educational device designed to put machine learning in the hands of developers in a fun and exciting way. So the slide that I actually had in here that got cut out was about just the growing demand of the amount of job growth and demand for jobs within machine learning. So there's basically, some data points and some statistics around how much demand is being created for ML. So basically it's estimated by 2025 that there's going to be 97 million jobs demanded in machine learning. And currently, there's only 300,000 machine learning engineers in the marketplace to supply the demand. So what we at AWS are doing about it is we want to democratize machine learning, right? So we want to make it accessible to everyone, and we want to put it in the hands of all companies so that they can take advantage of this technology. So Deep Racer was really built on that premise, and we're trying to make it easy for everyone to get started with machine learning. So what we've done with Deep Racer is we've used gamification and competition to help people to kind of break the ice to get into machine learning. So with these remote control cars, we've created a competition. Okay, so participants train software that runs on these remote control cars, and the cars drive autonomously around a physical track, and the the premise of the competition is whoever can have the fastest lap around the track. So under the hood, Clyde was so kind to bring a couple of the cars today, but under the hood, it's basically a computer, right? There's an Intel CPU, there's RAM, there's hard disk, and there's a camera, right? So as the car traverses around the track, it's taking pictures, or it's doing video, right? And it's making decisions. It's making, predictions on, is it on the track? Should it turn? Should it go straight? And it's doing all of that with a software model that's been loaded onto the car. And so, Deep Racer is really comprised of three things. There's the Deep Racer console, which is a UI where participants use the UI to train software models. So there's wizards that help guide participants through building the model. So it's kind of watered down, right? They're not really completely under the hood like training deep neural networks. But then there's the physical car itself, and then there's a physical track. So I was telling Clyde, it's the one thing that we need, right? We don't have a track right now, but they're different sizes depending on the year and the kind of the track that we race on. But there's something like 27 feet by like 16, 17 feet. So it's a large track that these cars can race around. And it's super exciting. I've been involved in private customer events where we've had like hundreds of people come to participate, where there's an MC that's kind of talking about who's racing and how fast the current car has gone around the track, and just music playing. We have a leaderboard that's basically saying who's going the fastest. But in addition to like the private events, there's a virtual league. So there's virtual circuits that take place every month. So the software models that participants train can also be used in a virtual environment, right? So they can train, they train virtual, but then they can also race virtual, in addition to being able to do it physically. So physically, we have what's called the AWS Summits, which is, I think it's about 20 cities globally that are physical, like one-day conferences that we have a track at, a Deep Racer track, where participants can come, like anyone can come and sit in a workshop. It's a couple-hour workshop, train a model, and then take that software artifact, load it onto the car, and race it. So the only thing that the participant controls during the competition is with a tablet, they control the speed of the car. But the car is actually making its own driving decisions. And the winners with the fastest time at our summits are given basically all expense paid trip to reInvent. And reInvent is our annual customer conference that takes place in Las Vegas. And then at reInvent, we basically have like a championship where there's 64 participants, and it's kind of like knockout rounds where they get knocked out and it condenses down to a pair of racers that race for first place. But yeah, and along the way, like for the virtual circuits, there's prizes. So to the top, like, I don't know what it is, 5 or 10 participants, the cars are actually given away as prizes as well. So yeah, so the 3.5 years that I've been at AWS, it's probably the most exciting experience that I've had with customers, just for the simple fact that it's competition. It's all good, Eddie. So in addition to Deep Racer, we do have a couple other educational devices. Deep Lens actually came prior to Deep Racer, and what it is a machine learning enabled camera that uses convolutional neural networks to basically do computer vision. So with Deep Lens, we can do things like sentiment analysis, object detection, and then we also have Deep Composer, which is a musical keyboard that gets paired up with GANs, which are generative adversarial networks, to basically create music. So you can give it a specific music genre, and then you can either play part of a song or you can just pick a genre, and then the GANs are used to actually create music. So it's just a couple other like learning tools that we have to make machine learning fun and exciting. And then just taking a quick look at the AI ML stack that we have at AWS. Again, we try to democratize machine learning, but the way that we look at our machine learning services is really, there's really 3 layers to the stack. So if we start at the bottom of the stack, we refer to that as our ML frameworks, and it's really the infrastructure layer, where if we have expert level machine learning practitioners, this is the layer where they can come in and get direct access to GPU or CPU resources for training ML. They can bring their own frameworks depending which frameworks they favor the most. And if we move up the stack, the next kind of layer is where SageMaker fits in. So SageMaker is our machine learning platform. So there's really, from the inception of the data science kind of process, the exploratory data analysis, to training models, to measuring the metrics of the models, to deploying models into production, that can all happen within SageMaker. And then the last layer of the stack, we refer to that as our AI services. And this is really where the democratization of ML comes into play. So the AI services they're pre-trained models, and they're really aligned to kind of human cognition. So there's models around vision and services. There's services around language, whether it's text to speech or speech to text. There's services there, and developers can consume these services through APIs, right? So there's no kind of data science required at the AI services level. Developers can just call these APIs, upload their data, and what they receive in response to the API is the actual prediction. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. There's a lot of different services within the AI services. And then, kind of aligned with Jenny and Tim's talk is the training that we have available. So, Jenny mentioned it a couple times already, AWS Skill Builder, which there's hundreds of, free training content available, and there's role-based machine learning. So whether you're a data engineer, data scientist, machine learning practitioner, there's different role-based curriculum that you can find on Skill Builder. And in addition to Skill Builder, we also have what's called Machine Learning University. And so what that is there was internal content that was created within Amazon to train the software development teams about AI ML. And so with Machine Learning University, it's aligned to different tracks. So you'll find there's a tabular track, there's a vision track, and there's a language track. But those are all free content that we decided to make public. And so you can go out there and utilize that content as well to basically upskill, your machine learning understanding. And then we have the certification. So we have a machine learning specialty certification as well, if you're interested in, kind of checking that box, as was mentioned earlier, to have certification on your resume. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Clyde, and he's going to take you through a little bit more on Deep Racer.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Yeah, I'll share our experience implementing Deep Racer as a workforce development program at DataHouse. And the timing is really good because we just did this in June. But we actually learned about Deep Racer back 2019, and we were all excited about it. So we ordered that car. I was at the end of 2019, and then the pandemic hit, and it sat in the box for 2 years, literally. And we opened the box just earlier this year, and we quickly realized that we need more than just the car to engage our people and provide a guided learning experience. So that's where the Deep Racer program comes in. And so what I'll do over the next 20 minutes or so, I'll share the program that we implemented for DataHouse and some of the lessons learned and some of the results that we're able to achieve. Before I do that, I just wanted to give you context, just a little bit about our workforce at DataHouse. I know Eddie shared a little bit about our company, but yeah, we've been around since '75. Yeah, I've been there since 1980 as an intern, so I've been there a long time, and I'm still learning. Yes, the lifelong learning culture. And our workforce is all over the place. You know, we have in Hawaii, the mainland, Vietnam, American Samoa. But the Deep Racer, program that we implemented, we focused it in our consulting company, about 100 people, and the makeup of that workforce is mostly professional IT, people, software developers, business analysts, project managers, program managers, system engineers, what you would typically find in a large IT department. That's the makeup of our workforce that we implemented this Deep Racer program. So that provides you some context. Yeah. But we also involve others as like interns, and I'll get into that later. So whenever we do these initiatives, we always like to start with why. It's good to understand and to be able to communicate why it makes sense for your organization to do something like this. And for us, it came down to these three reasons. And there are whys, but I think they apply to many organizations. The first is to invest in these strategic technologies. Second is to empower our workforce, and third is to reinforce culture. And I'll briefly touch on each one of these points. The first is investing in strategic technology is something for DataHouse. It's a matter of survival. It's not a choice. You can imagine being started in '75 and all the changes. If we didn't continue to invest in these new technology, we wouldn't be around. So it's just a natural part of what we do. But I think the interesting part about Deep Racer and the subject matter of AI and machine learning is that it's being viewed as not only a new technology, it's really a whole new era of computing. And it's being referred to as a cognitive era. And it's just mind-boggling when you think about, most of our careers and our entire IT industry has been built mostly in the programmatic era of, back in the 70s to the 2000s, 90s, and what happened during that period and what was created, and just to think what's to come in this cognitive era. So for DataHouse, for us to train our workforce to be prepared for that era is important, but just like any other organization, just like what happened in the program era, it's important that workforces become prepared for it. So Deep Racer is a way, to just start to get prepared for this. It's not, expected that everybody's going to know everything about AI and machine learning, but you want to start a learning path towards it. The second reason is empower our workforce, and we do this through training programs, having certification programs like what Ginny described. But another part of empowering workforce is being able to make connections and forming communities. And we have a framework that we call a community source innovation framework, where we make innovation a team sport. Everybody works together. We connect assets with talent, resources, and then together, they come up with these ideas and innovate. And so we have a whole platform for that called the Innovation Factory, where it facilitates the sharing of knowledge, the teaching, learning from each other, and managing a lot of the content within it. Deep Racer fits nicely as a program within that factory because it does facilitate the connections, people working together, forming connections, forming community around an interest, and this interest being in learning about AI, machine learning. And then the last thing, and I loved your session this morning about the lifelong learning culture, and that for us, at DataHouse, culture has been an important part of our business since the beginning. And being passionately innovative, valuing relationships and people, and the continued learning and growth, the lifelong learning, has been a core values of DataHouse over all the years. And this framework is something that, it's a Gartner framework, but we have something similar that breaks down the components of culture into shared values, practices, mindsets. They all work together to shape behaviors. And, you know, with culture, the thing about values, everybody has values, but they're largely not observable. So to reinforce culture, you have to have things that are observable. And Deep Racer is an activity that can reinforce culture. And for us, that was one of the reasons of doing it, is that, you know, we have you know, concerted effort of even after 47 years to continue to reinforce our culture. So that's a little bit about the why. Let me just summarize the program itself. And I know most, aside from Tim, nobody has really got into Deep Racer, knows much about it. So this should give you an idea of what it is, what it's all about, and what it looks like when you implement it. So, and this is the way we implemented it, and we made it intentionally a easy on-ramp for learning about AI. So we kept it to be a 3-week learning experience, and we used the AWS Deep Racer program pretty much out of the box that they offer, but we augmented it with group sessions where we had mentors that provided guidance, and we wanted to support this community innovation model. So we included not only our staff but the interns. We were part of working with the university and getting our interns real life experiences. And so this is another way of doing that. By working together with professionals in the field, they can learn. And so why not include family members too? Because a lot of our staff have children that are maybe interested in this. But it's amazing. I'll talk about some of the results that we had and some family members that got involved. I didn't expect it, but it's pretty cool. And like we gamified it by making it fun and competitive, so we offered like prizes at the end. And our goal is really to provide an easy on-ramp just to start the learning process. We wanted to involve people, so we support our community innovation model. And the last thing is we wanted to make this not a one-off event for DataHouse. We wanted to make it a repeatable program that anybody could try. So, working with AWS, we wanted to share this. And so that's why the timing of this conference is really good. So we're willing to share all the artifacts we created in creating this program. But yeah, our goal is to foster innovation in Hawaii. So any way we can help to do that. Yeah. So just to give a feel for how we put it together, we had a committee, and these are the roles that we filled. I served as a program sponsor. You need somebody to lead it, otherwise it's never going to happen. We had promoters that were the spokesperson that promoted. They spoke about this event at our town halls and brown bag events. Then we had mentors that ranged from people that has been at DataHouse for 20-something years to be people that just started. And the only thing I had in common were they were interested in this area, and they did have some prior experience on their own, playing with Deep Racer themselves. And they kind of facilitated the answering of all the questions that people may have, and they responded to questions on Slack, provided general guidance. Then we had people to help coordinate and communicate. We had a historian to capture the moments because we wanted it to be a repeatable thing that we could share. And last but not least, Nick and Marie, from AWS were part of our planning, sharing the Deep Racer program and helping us with some of the events, the group sessions that we had. We wanted to make it as self-sufficient as possible, self-service, so that we didn't incur a lot of, overhead in terms of administering this program. So we created these resources. One of them is a wiki site where we posted all the information that they need to know to be able to participate in the program. Step-by-step instructions, FAQs. That's something we created as a resource. The second was a Slack channel that we set up. And it served as a very useful way of sending out notices, just questions, answers, and general communication channel. That made it very easy. So let me just go through the steps of the program. And there's 7 steps. Like I mentioned, we did this in 3 weeks, so it's very, very quick. But there's a reason why you want to do it quick, and you want to actually do it within a calendar month. And I'll explain why as we go through this. The first step is, you need to just enroll. And this website is part of AWS's DeepRacer student league. So I need to explain there's different leagues in DeepRacer. There's a regular DeepRacer and there's a student league. And the student league is intended for high school, college students, and it's a more streamlined, faster learning path. And we got permission from AWS to use it. We called ourselves DataHouse University, and it fit what we wanted to accomplish in our program. So there's a way to enroll, register, and one tip is you want to let everybody know to name them you create a racer name. You want to prefix it with like your company name, because the student league, just like the regular DeepRacer, is a global program. Yeah, so you have people all over the world enrolling in this, and you want to be able to filter just your people. So having a prefix helps that. Then step 2 is just the learning process, and this is through their online learning resources. There's really 2 tracks in the student league. There's a introduction to machine learning, and then there's a introduction to reinforcement learning. We made the introduction to machine learning optional for people that wanted to learn more, get deeper into machine learning. But the reinforcement learning courses were mandatory because that's the specific instructions on how to program the car. And the way DeepRacer is built is on a reinforcement learning model, which is a form of machine learning that is how you train the car. And so these courses, there's about 7 chapters, takes about an hour to 2 hours to go through it. So it's very, very quick. The reinforcement learning track is 12 courses, but I did it myself personally in about two hours. And it gives you a broader perspective of machine learning. Then step 3, after everybody did this in the first week, we did a group session where we collaborated. We had mentors answer questions that people might have on the courses. And then we had AWS with a really good resource, an expert. He helped to create the program within AWS. And he gave really good tips. And it's really good that we had them because he inspired people that you don't have to be a software developer to be able to program this car. You can do it in a few lines of code. And that was inspiration to some of our people that they can actually do this. Step 4, after we did that group session, and people would just go online and build their car. So they just go through these steps to name your car. You choose a track, and the reason for choosing a track that everybody chooses the same track is because we're competing. You got to be on the same track. And the reason why you want to do it in a calendar month is that this track resets. The default resets every month because the student league resets every month. And so we just took the default Ross Speedway. Then you select the algorithm type, so it's everybody has the same spec car basically, and so it's fair when people race. And after you go through that, then the next step is to train the car, and this is where I think people had hesitation in whether they could do this because it is involved Python coding, but you don't have to know Python to be able to do it because they provide sample code. You can just simply copy and paste. And it actually provided a vector for learning, a secondary vector for learning where people was interested in learning Python, and this gave them a use case for it. And because Python is one of the most popular languages today. So it's interesting how I branched off like that. So that's the next step, is to train it. And the Python code is really training it like you would train a pet. It's like you reward good behavior and you don't reward bad behavior. And so when you program in Python, you're creating these reward functions that gives rewards for doing good things like staying on the track or not zigzagging or going fast. And through that, the car learns and it can maneuver its way around the track. And so that's the way it works. And you don't have to get into the lowest layers of the stack that Nick described, because that's too technical. People get lost in that. You stay at the highest level, which is this level where it's a lot easier for people to deal with. Then you, after you write your Python code, then you submit it for training, and you can choose how long. And everybody gets allocated 10 hours for free. This is part of the AWS Student League program. 10-hour training is free. You go over that, I think you get charged for it. So we said everybody has to stay within 10 hours. And there's different strategies. Some people would say, I'm going to just write one function and train it for 10 hours. Or some people say, I'm going to write a function and try it for 15 minutes. And so there's different strategies, and there's no right. At least I didn't figure out what's right or wrong. But it provides that, that way of, just problem-solving skills development as part of it. Then after you did that training, then you submit it to the race. And when you submit it to the race, you're basically getting an elapsed time for 3 laps. And that's what we use to award the prize. We base it on how fast they did it. We didn't base it on the rank, because the rank is ranked among everybody in the world in this program. So we just said, okay, the fastest time within our DataHouse cohort is going to get probably the top 3, actually. And then you get a video that you can watch your car go around and see how well it performs. And then the last step is that we had a awards ceremony. We all celebrated the winners, and we had 3 finalists, the top 3 fastest. And we were surprised who, what profession they're in. They're not software development. The top 2 were not software developers. And I'll talk about that later when we get into the next part of this. And then, we had them share their tips and how they won, because that reinforces the culture of everybody learning from each other. So they shared it, and it was really neat to see the different things they did. And then the last thing, as part of this session, we had AWS present other machine learning use cases, because I don't know, we don't get much requests for our customers to program an autonomous car, but AI machine learning has many, many use cases. And for our staff to understand that, we had Nick present what those use cases are. So it broadened the applications that we could use this for. Then we surveyed all the participants. And so just briefly, the results, we had 45 participants that signed up in the part of the Slack channel. That's pretty good. Consider there's about 100 in the company, right? And then they included staff, interns, and family members. And we had about 24 race entries in it. And those are some of the rankings. And our feedback from the survey was, almost 5 stars for their experience and recommending it to others. They enjoyed the competition and the approachable and casual way that the program allowed them to learn about machine learning. They personally got out of it, the collaboration with the connections. That was what we wanted. We wanted to make connections. And then they learned about machine learning. And they're interested in other technologies. So this is our future programs that we want to plan. So I'll just close with a couple of testimonials, and these are from the top 3 finalists, as well as some interns. But this is not a programmer; it's a software program manager, and he appreciated the opportunity to get exposed to AI machine learning, and he was one of the ones that listened to the AWS expert and did a couple line code of reward function and was able to achieve pretty high fast score. And so it really opened his mind up to other use cases for machine learning. This person, our project manager, was the first place, and she had fun, and she involved her husband and actually her first grade child in the program, because they made it a family learning event. And her husband happens to be a software developer. And so she said, as a project manager, I have to find the best resources, so I found my husband. So, creative people can get in, if you give them a challenge, and that's what happened. And then, so not, the software developers had to be representative, so that's the third place. And he was able to, I appreciated, the free and easily digestible learning material to learn about machine learning and have, firsthand experience in it. So some of the interns, this is some of the feedback from them. I feel more confident about machine learning and concepts in Python. And AWS DBracer was a great first project. And for interns, that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to instill confidence in themselves, so we have them present and all that, and and provide real world experience to them. So I think they got a lot out of the program as well. So just I'll wrap up with this just summary of lessons learned or tips or things. I think that keeping it simple to get more participation is important, because AI is a very complex technology, and the intent was not for people to just learn it and know it. It was just to get them started on a path. Engaging experts that can share tips like AWS, that can, inspire them, that you don't have to be a software developer, and, give them ideas. I think that helped us. Making it fun and competitive, so having the prizes, that was something that I think helped. And then having this channel to communicate and provide support. So that's our DBracer experience.
Any questions? Any questions for Nick or Clyde?
Anybody can sign up to this program for learning?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nick, you want to take that?
Anybody can.
It's
So-
free?
It's free, yes. Yeah. So can you guys hear me on the mic? So like Clyde mentioned, there's two leagues. There's the general DBracer League, which is open to anyone, and then there's the student league. So you have to be high school or college for the student league, but it's open to anyone, whether student or non-student.
I'm software developer.
You're what? Software?
Software developer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Student anymore.
Yeah, so it's definitely open to everyone, and it falls under our free tier. So you can do a certain amount of hours of training, and there's no cost.
For 3 weeks.
No, it can be
It's-
as long as you want.
Yeah, it's time-based. Go for it.
Yeah, we made it 3 weeks just because it's a program with many people involved, and we had to kind of set the start and end of it. But individually, you can sign up for it, and I don't know if there's a time limit on it.
There's a time limit on the training. So
Yeah.
I know for the student league, it's there's 10 hours.
Right.
That's free. For the larger free tier, I'm not sure off the top of my head how many hours, but the training is where there's a cost component, but it's part of the free tier. So you can use the free tier and you don't have to pay, and then once you go over the amount of hours that's included in free tier, if you want to continue training, then you could pay. So yeah, the training is what you're doing. The training when you're basically the car is learning in a simulated environment how to drive around the track. So that's what the training is doing. You're actually training a model, so that model becomes your software artifact that is kind of the intelligence of the car to drive autonomously.
Yeah, the 10 hours is for the training of the car, not yourself. Yeah, so you can take as long as you want.
Do you get the same guys that keep coming back and keep winning? Does that happen? Do you notice that there's certain subsets of people that just next track and they're like, I want to win that one again and again? Does that happen?
That's a good question. I personally haven't been involved in that level. So we have a service team that supports DBracer, but I asked for some of the statistics from them just for part of this talk, and I was thinking, when I sat down, I kind of forgot, but we've had over 150,000 participants since the launch of DBracer, across 150 countries, and we've had 750 organizations be involved in DBracer. So yeah, it launched in 2018, and yeah, I think There, and like I mentioned earlier, right, in 2019 at at our reInvent conference, like it was a $25,000 prize purse for first place. So I think that people put in like a significant amount of time and energy and resources into having the fastest like models go around the track.
Yeah, I was wondering if people were treating it like Kegel competitions.
Yeah, I think people were putting a pretty large amount of effort into getting some fast models.
Yeah, and it's pretty sophisticated. You know, I mentioned you can get it in a couple of lines, but you can get into it's a LiDAR sensor that can mount on a car, and you can play with that. There's like dual cameras that can tell what the position of the car on the track, and you can get into steering angles. There's a lot of parameters that you can work with to really, I think, improve time. Any other?
Go for it.
Going back to your slide, Nick, I know you showed the framework, the AI framework for AWS, and at the top tier is really the nirvana, right, of where businesses want to go, and it's a lot pre-built. So why would someone, I guess an individual, right, is interested in this field and wants to study in it, get certified, what does that benefit to doing that line of work? I mean, what work would they do, I guess, given that you have AWS with the pre-built models, right? That whether it be natural learning or language learning, whatever. What would they do?
So I think there's, to answer that, it's kind of a multifaceted answer. One example is like just to start at the AI services. So a service like recognition, right? It can do object detection, it can do sentiment analysis. So it's basically a computer vision model. So you can give it a picture and it'll tell you like what's in the picture. Is this a dog? Is this a cat? It'll tell you if people are happy or sad. But if you start to go down, like just thinking about dogs, right? You're like, is this a German Shepherd? Is this a poodle? Is this, and so it can probably tell you some of that. But if you are a business and you have a very specific use case where you need to start getting into more deeper granular scenarios that are more sophisticated than kind of this generalized model, that's when you'd have like data scientists would be a job role. You'd have probably data engineers. So there's many different kind of facets and like job roles within AI and ML. I mean, you have data analysts. So I think on the analyst side, you're probably more involved with closer working with, relational databases, data warehouses, probably doing, analysis on the data with SQL. Like SQL would be your kind of tool. But the data engineers, like the machine learning, the data scientists, like they're probably going to be working with tools like, Python, like Clyde mentioned, is probably the most common tool. But then there's others, like R is another language that's really used heavily in statistics. But yeah, I think, and there's kind of nuances between those job roles. There's probably some overlap between a lot of them, but a data engineer is going to do things more like piping data from kind of like point A to point B and cleansing of the data. Like the data most times is not going to be clean. Like whether it's, a lot of times businesses are going to have like tabular data. So you think of like spreadsheets, but that data needs to be pre-processed and be clean before you can apply like machine learning methods to it. So, and then on the flip side of that, like a data scientist is going to be applying algorithms, right? They're going to look at the business question that's, being proposed, like what is the business trying to solve? And they're going to, based on the business questions that are being asked, they're going to look at different algorithms and say, okay, maybe this algorithm, they're going to be doing experimentation with the data and trying to solve the business question to make predictions based on the data that they have. So,
I think AWS, you mentioned democratizing AI. I think that is the answer to just opening it up to a broader workforce because machine learning, data scientists creating algorithms, that's the lower part of the stack. But when you get into the other level services AWS has, like recognition or some of these other forecasts, you can get people like business analysts and other professions that can work with AI. And they're not doing it at the lowest level. They're doing it at this higher level of abstraction and still creating these solutions based on AI. And so that, to me, opens up a lot more of the workforce. It provides them opportunities to create solutions. Well, thanks for staying so late.
So thanks, Nick and Clyde, and thank you again for sticking out all day, especially this last session. If you folks do want to stick around even much longer in a more social setting, we do have a pauhana that's located, I believe, on the Eva side in the corner there. We do have a complimentary drink ticket if you want to pick it up at where you registered and just mingle and continue networking. So again, thank you, Nick and Clyde, and thank you all for joining us.